stand, you can make it stand, you can take it. So his storming track opens March or Die, which kind of gives the listener, it's going to be a goodie. After that, it can be a bit patchy. I never think March or Die is as, it generally gets a poor, critics generally put it down, or it's not popular amongst Motorhead fans always sing. I don't think it's as bad as all that. It's definitely not my favourite albums though. But anyway, this was the album that followed the previous year. 1991 was 1916, which saw Motorhead completely. Although it wasn't a massive seller, it really put them back on the map. It's a fantastic album. Personally, for me, it's up there for like Ace of Spades, 1916. 10 years after that one, or 11 years after that one, 1980, and then 1991. Storming tracks. Anyway, this is about March or Die. But Motorhead were definitely, their spirits were back up, and you know they were going to do another album, and this was for a major label, Sony. So all the signs were looking good. Unfortunately, they had a problem. Nothing ever being easy for Motorhead. Problem was Philthy Animal Taylor, whose drumming was just getting worse and worse. And Lemmy was finding it really hard to deal with him. Philthy had always been a bit highly strung, and he was still proving to be highly strung. Whereas before he was highly strung and playing excellently, and it was kind of part of his character. Lemmy said that at the end they couldn't play Overkill with him. He couldn't be relied upon to play Overkill, or they'd do like Kill by Death, and he'd start off at one tempo, and by the end it was a completely different tempo. And Phil Campbell, who was kind of not shy at tearing into him. Apparently, they play one time and they come off stage, and Phil Campbell says, "You play complete shit tonight," and Philthy Animal just went absolutely mental, like started trying to attack him. I mean, they used to have fights. The two Phils. I mean, I think he broke Philthy Animal. Philthy Animal broke Phil Campbell's ankle once. Some weird. They both disappeared underneath a table, fighting. I think in France in a hotel room, and only Philthy Animal stood back up. You had to be a fast Eddie to handle Philthy Animal and his violent tantrums, I think. But yeah, they couldn't rely on him. Then I think it was in London they got the Lemmy was in LA where he was now living. The two guitarists, Wurzel Phil Campbell and Philthy Animal Taylor, met in London, and they were playing the new tracks they're working on. And after about a quarter of an hour, apparently Phil Campbell said to Philthy Animal, "You haven't learnt these fucking tracks, have you? You don't know them." And he said, no. And Phil Campbell said, "Why? You've had all over Christmas, there's some break or something. Christmas, Motorhead having a Christmas break, or something. They'd had some sort of break, and they'd all been given, I suppose it would have been tapes back then or whatever, to learn the tracks off, the rough tracks, or to jam along to them, develop their parts, whatever." And Philthy Animal Taylor said, "Oh, my Walkman broke over Christmas." That was his excuse. He couldn't listen to the tracks. And then apparently later on they were rehearsing in the studio together, and like the Sonny Rosie wasn't there. He was outside washing his car and stuff. And anyway, it was all this sort of thing. So they realised he had to go, and Lemmy said it was always one of Lemmy's regrets. Lemmy wasn't a big one for regrets, but he said he did regret the way he let Philthy Animal Taylor go. He said he phoned him to say, it's over, mate, because they'd given him Lemmy had given him two definite warnings, and it was third strike, you're out. And he rang him up. He said he should have done it face to face, but he couldn't handle another meltdown. That's how Philthy's mood was. And because Philthy Animal, but he couldn't see anything that was wrong. His drumming was shot to pieces. They're having to put him on a metronome in the studio. The thing, if you're not, it goes, so you keep your time. But some people use them, some people don't. But anyway, I don't think he had to be in them before. And Faster Lee Clark years later, he always said it. Faster Lee Clark said he never got over being chucked out of Motorhead, but he said he learned to live with it. And he said it was quite very sad. He said Philthy Animal Phil never did. He said did you see him at the end? He said, did you see him towards the end, like before he passed away? He said, bitter and fucking twisted, having chucked out and that, and it wouldn't be tasteful to say how Phil went after Motorhead, but there was a lot of drinking and drugging, you know. And they said, you know, why? Apparently, a few people said to me, you should be out working, you know, drum with your caliber. And he said, I've tried being in bands. He said, I just always feel like I've done it. I've done it already. I either think, where do you go after you've been in Motorhead? And it was like almost like a curse of Motorhead in a way. Whoever left it or got thrown out, you never sort of really heard from them again. And yeah, you never heard from them. The only one who did it something was Faster Than Clark with Fastway. I mean, that was a band that achieved a certain amount of success, and that was almost from scratch, really. You had to hunt around for a record deal and all that. But anyway, you know, so kudos to Fast Eddie for that. But other members, it's like, let me get out the best of them. But then after that, what were they going to do? And there's a good interview of Philthy Animal Taylor on the internet. I'll try and put a link into it. But yeah, he's just interviewed. And he said the beginning of the end for me was it was in Tokyo. They were touring Japan, it was in Tokyo. And he was having an argument with Lemmy about something. And he said, I thought this band was supposed to be a, you know, effing democracy. And to which Lemmy said, it's a democracy when I say it's a democracy. It was always definitely Lemmy's band. And Phil said after, like, whenever he met Lemmy after being chucked out, they sort of cooled off. And when they met, they were, hey, buddy, and all this sort of thing. But Philthy said Lemmy was always, if you're out of his band, there was a certain distance suddenly there. You could have been close as, I mean, they were like, you know, they'd been there right from the beginning, from like 75. But, you know, like that, close as brothers. But after that was Lemmy, there was a certain coolness to Lemmy's relationship with ex-members. And he felt it very personally sometimes. Apparently once he had a go at Pete Way, you know, it was originally going to be Fastway's bass player, hence the name Fastway, with Eddie Clark. Apparently Lemmy got hold of Pete Way and said, I want to have a word with you. You're helping to make that CUNT Clark famous, you know, after Eddie had either left or been chucked out of Motorhead. So, you know, he felt these things quite deeply, I think, Lemmy. You know, you were definitely on the out if you'd left Motorhead or been chucked out of Motorhead. Anyway, so Philthy Animal's out, so what are they going to do for drummer? This is where I've got a dubious claim to fame. There's said Wurzel and Phil, they recruited a drummer to rehearse a couple of tracks. A guy who goes by the name Magpie, and I actually auditioned to join a band with him and the bass player, who'd been in a band who supported Motorhead. God, this is really dubious, isn't it? But they used him to do a couple of tracks, but that didn't work out. You know, didn't get the full-time offer. And then Tommy Aldridge, I think, sat behind the kit. Well, I think there's a few drummers, but Tommy Aldridge. And eventually, I'm just trying to work out if Mickey D, of course, Mickey D came in and just completely kicked Motorhead so hard up the arse when they really needed a sort of shot, and Mickey D is going to do it. I don't know what tracks Mickey D played on Stand or Die. I know Tommy Aldridge, he said to Mickey D, he said, I'll just put your name on those tracks, so I don't need credit and I've been paid or something. But Mickey D said, I don't want credit on your tracks, they're shit. Mickey D was always like quite outspoken. He knows his own talent. And yeah, he said, I don't want recognition for your tracks, thank you, pal. It's funny, he said Philthy Animal Taylor, he said, great personality, useless drummer, or not a great drummer. I thought Philthy Phil was great. Anyway, yeah, so let's look at the tracks here. Stand, yeah, love that one, awesome, great opener. Lemmy's, you know, Stand, you can make it, just get to it. All this sort of classic Lemmy sort of motivational speech about, you know, chasing after your dreams and fulfilling goals and stuff. Catch Scratch Fever, it's all right. I heard the original in Lemmy's, in his autobiography. He said, I thought Ted Nugent, he said, I thought his version was very thin, ours is a lot thicker and generally better, and I'd agree with that. But I don't know, it's like when they covered the Sex Pistols' God Save the Queen. It's like, I don't know why they really need to do it, to be honest. or Jumping Jack Flush by the Stones, or I don't know. I suppose they just want to just have a bit of a jam, but just, they can't be short of material. Bad Religion. I love that. I don't know if they taped off the TV that ha ha ha, the day of miracles has come, and I want you to go to your TV and phone them with your donation. Apparently he's I've never been to America, but apparently, well, back in the day, I don't know if it's now, but apparently these sort of religious commercials used to be pretty widespread on cable TV and stuff in the States. Lemmy, of course, not being the biggest fan of religion, decides to have a rip on it. Jack the Ripper, that's a nice little. So far, I mean, Catch Scratch Fever is perfectly listenable. I just don't know why they need to do a cover, but whatever. It's just my opinion. So, pretty good so far. I Ain't No Nice Guy, really good track, and this was the thing. Lemmy was still determinedly chasing bigger success. I mean, 1916 may have gotten back street cred, and I think I'm So Bad Bad I Don't Care was a minor hit, and all this sort of thing. But still, Lemmy was chasing after the big bucks, because he's seeing what people like Ozzy Osbourne, how big they got. And bear in mind, once 10 years previously, Motorhead had headlined over Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne had supported Motorhead. I mean, this was in England, where just for a time Motorhead were huge, like almost personalities really. But so they recorded Ain't No Nice Guy, which he wrote, and Ozzy Osbourne. Oh, sorry, he wrote with Ozzy Osbourne. Apparently, this is it, and Zakk Wylde. Oh no, it's Hellraiser. No, might forget what I just said. It says Killmeister. It's a sole songwriting credit for Ain't No Nice Guy. But anyway, Ozzy Osbourne recorded it, for which I think Lemmy got a load of money. It might have been one of a few songs, I think 4 songs. Sharon Osbourne asked Lemmy to write for Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne he wrote a bunch of songs, and Ozzy Osbourne used 4 of them on a solo album of his. I don't know much about Ozzy Osbourne, I'm not a fan, so. But Lemmy said he got more money for that than he had in so far 15 years of Motorhead. But he thought this was going to be the big hit. Not only did he was duetting with Ozzy, he's also got Slash. Slash has come down. They're big. Motorhead and Slash are big mates, and Motorhead support all been on the Guns N' Roses Metallica bill, but they got treated with a lot of respect apparently. I mean, they opened the show, but they got all the PA and everything. So we got Slash come in to studio to play a solo. They had to pay to record a video, which if you've seen the video, is sort of mainly sort of Lemmy and Ozzy sitting back to back and stuff. And then Sony tried to kill it. Radio started playing it. The Motorhead camp were determined to get some radio and stuff, and it was a ballad, as I say, had Ozzy Osbourne. So radio were playing it. Then Sony tried to kill it. They were like running up radio stations, going, "If you don't stop, playing it, we're going to sue you or something, or we haven't released it or something." And then Motorhead's manager, Todd Singerman, a really great manager for Motorhead. He said, if you don't stop ringing up these radio stations, I'm going to set my. So I've got some gangland brothers living in LA or something, and they're going to pay you a visit. And the call stopped, and the radio stations carried on playing it, but it didn't. But it killed it though. By then, it was starting to do really well on the radio, and you can see why it would. Just to sort of have the Ozzy Osbourne and Slash. Hellraiser, next track from one of the his title track or whatever from the movie, or apparently it's buried right at the end of the credits or something. I can't remember. I've never seen that movie, Hellraiser. This guy's got the pin stuck in his head or something. Classic track, really good track. I'm living on an endless road around the world for rock and roll. They play it live on it's not David Letterman. What's the other one? The other talk show. Oh God, they do that and Going to Brazil, but they play Hellraiser, and that's where once in a while Motorhead, of course, you have to listen to them live, but when they play it live, that's when you really hear how great a track it is. And so far, really great. Asylum Choir. This one sounds a bit muddy, the recording, but apart from that, I quite like the track. The sky is crushing you. The walls. I remember years and years ago. I was about 20. I had some terrible job loading up lorries. I just remember walking there one day at like 7:30 in the morning with a god awful hangover with that on my Walkman. It always reminds me of that job. Asylum Choir, yeah, but it's just that was cute. It had that in a couple of places. This album, it's got that weird muddy thing that Motorhead had, you know, like an Iron Fist, that sort of muddy woolly type mixing problem. Too Good to Be True, Cold and Lonely Without, another great sort of, I don't know, what would you call them, power ballad, but there was a couple of tracks, you know, when Lemmy sounds quite poignant. It's not like the rock and roll album, you know. We were All For You. Lemmy did the sort of the wounded lover bit quite really well, you know. And Too Good to Be True, sort of it continues in that vein. A really great, power pop rock or something. I don't know. You Better Run. Well, so, I mean, it's Hoochie Coochie Man, really, isn't it? Again, it's got Slash playing on it. Don't You Take My Name in Vain. I can't even remember how that one goes now. Bit fillery for me. And then the end, that March or Die. Where Lemmy sort of goes into a sort of weird storytelling medieval bard fantasy world. It's like saying Lord of the Rings or something. Oh, your life a cosmic joke. Piss and smoke and all this sort of thing. I think I've listened to it through once. Yeah, I think I'd rather just sort of hear the music, to be honest. It only worked for me, that thing on the previous album. I think he was trying to do it. Was Nightmare the Dream Time, Dreamline, Nightmare the Dream Time, which really eerie, that one. Really eerie, and it's really good, basically. And March just didn't. I think they pulled it off once, but it didn't work in for me. So not much else to say about this one for me, but for some reason it does get generally not good reviews, and I fail to see why. Again, considering all the usual crap they had to cope with. You know, nothing ever been easy, like Philthy on his way out and stuff. I thought they did a pretty good job on most of the tracks. So yeah, but somehow I mean, knowing what I do about all the trouble surrounded it, I give it a bit of, it doesn't quite gel. The tracks it's not smooth. So they sound, I don't know how to explain it. They don't sort of come together. But not, you know, I don't know, certain tracks, like certain albums, like a few years later, or just a couple of 96, like Overnight Sensation, where a lot of the tracks are quite different from each other, but they kind of all work placed together. But these ones, they don't, you can feel they don't quite, I don't know if it's a mixing thing or something, they're not quite all on the same level. There has to be something, all sort of a basic bond amongst them. I mean, I just sound I'm talking bollocks because I can't really give any firm concrete. It's just more like a feeling than anything else for me. That's it. But yeah, not as bad. I don't think it was. Oh yeah, and of course, yeah, while they're recording the Rodney King riots, the black guy who was beaten up by a load of police, and it was filmed. I mean, it's days before smartphones or anything, but someone filmed it on a video camera, and yeah, so there was mass rioting in LA, and apparently Lemmy was watching it on TV. Thinking, God, where's this taking place? He looked out the window. It's like on the opposite side of the street, people setting fire to a car. So the engineer came out and said, "Recording's over today, boys. Good luck getting back to your hotels, or wherever you live." Yeah, so that was, so riots, drummers leaving or being thrown out, and all this sort of stuff. You know, I think they didn't. It's a pretty good album to me. Not one of their best, but I don't think it's as bad as here. Rating 2 out of 5. I think it was better than that. I'd give it a 3.5.